Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Matt Watson, who is immediately slamming things into the studio table. Hi, Matt.
Oh, what's going on,
man? I know you're excited about today's topic. You don't need to throw stuff. Not yet.
I'm really excited. I just can't contain myself.
I know you can't.
Yeah.
There's no one.
What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but as we get into that, I do want to point out once again as we get into this episode that of all the Matts on this podcast, you do have the most potential.
I do. Yeah.
And
Clearly.
speaking of potential and accomplishments and other things, we have a good friend with us here today who has started something awesome and cool and fun, and we'll just go ahead and introduce Lauren Conaway, who is the founder and CEO of InnovateHER.
InnovateHER KC.
I'm leaving it broad.
Girl power.
Because you're going to take over the world.
Yeah.
Hi,
I look
Lauren.
forward to that. Hi.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to give a little background. So we know Lauren from the Kansas City Startup Foundation, and she's just kind of like everywhere.
That's true.
Like you are. I see you around all over. You're a big advocate, supporter, participant, organizer, partier on some nights. Yeah, I've seen it happen. So anyway, and Matt, you've known Lauren for a while too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So recently you have announced that you're like out on your own.
Yes. I keep telling people that, there's this Kurt Vonnegut quote, but I jumped off a cliff and I'm growing wings on the way down.
That sounds like something I'd say. Jump and then build wings. Yeah.
You sure you didn't steal that saying from him?
Maybe.
I think Kurt Vonnegut stole most of his work for me.
Okay.
That's a little known fact. And the other fact is I'm actually Kurt Vonnegut and Satoshi Nakamoto.
Oh.
I know.
Impressive.
I do a couple things.
You have never seen them in the same room at the same time.
That's why
I have, yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I have.
You've seen me in the same room with myself at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
With your daughter.
True. You're baiting me right now, dude. You know what you're doing. So anyway, InnovateHER, centric around women's leadership and some other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So Lauren, why? Why are you doing this? What's your plan here?
Well, so people keep asking me that, and I find it kind of funny because InnovateHER KC started off without a plan at all. It actually was born of me being a little selfish and me being a little lazy. So we, I have been in the startup community for years, and as you said, big advocate, big enthusiastic supporter, but I realized that I was meeting all of these incredible women around this community, but I was always either organizing or planning and executing on an event, or it would just be like a quick check-in, let's get coffee sometime, here's my business card kind of deal, and I was lacking this real authentic connection with these badass lady leaders. And so I very selfishly was like, I want to change that. So the first InnovateHER KC, before we were even InnovateHER KC thing that we did, is I got together a group, and I think there were about 12 of us. We went and we got mani-pedis, and we had champagne, and we had snacks. And
Matt and I do that all the time.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't it a great bonding experience?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we did that, and what was really interesting is, so the women who went had a good time, and were like, we have to do this again, this was amazing. But what was really interesting is I had women that I didn't even know reaching out to me and saying, I heard about this, I want to be a part of it, when's the next one? And my response, of course, was like, I have no idea. But decided that I could take that hit, and that was something that I could just put together periodically, like a convening of awesome women.
I feel like this on some level started like as a hashtag for you.
Yeah.
Because just like being friends on Facebook, like a long time ago, I just see like InnovateHER.
Yeah. Well, we actually started off as Startup Sheroes. And
Right.
and then as the group has grown, and we were like, this is actually becoming a thing, surprising.
Did you
everybody.
have to have a wordplay debate there? Like
We did.
Shiro's Innovate Her.
Yeah, we did. Well, and there was a conversation about the fact that Shiro's, was it too cutesy? Would we be taken seriously?
These are all real problems.
They are.
I'm thinking of churros.
All right. See, I wouldn't
We're
have
gonna
minded.
we're gonna have those at our 2:00 mani-pedi champagne.
Awesome.
I'm really craving churros.
I feel
now.
Yeah.
I feel like being equated with churros wouldn't be a bad thing.
No,
I'd be
never.
down. I'd be down for that.
Yeah,
So what is your vision for this now? Like you said, you kind of start out with a little bit of maybe not quite a plan. How long has that been now? And then kind of how has this continued to morph and change?
Well, so the Facebook group was launched, and it was just a conglomeration of people that I was friends with that I wanted to get to know better. It started August 25th of 2018, so almost a year now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought this was all new.
So the new direction.
Or is it? Or you started this then, but you were still working at the start?
I was still
Starling?
starting.
Okay.
I was still working at the Kansas City Startup
Okay.
Foundation.
You were doing both.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what has been interesting, though, is there is a clear and demonstrated need in the female leadership community here in Kansas City, because what happened was it started out as a group of 50 of my friends, and then women kept inviting women, and this group just continued to grow and grow until we reached a tipping point probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and now we have almost 700 members.
Wow.
Yeah.
In the online community? Or
In the online
okay.
community, yeah. So we're currently a Facebook group, although
All female?
all female.
Okay.
Or female identifying. One
Okay.
of the things that one of our pretty
So I
big-
can't join?
You cannot join.
Okay.
You can support, you can be an ally, and we love our male allies,
right.
but this is a safe space for women.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have this Facebook group that's highly engaged, and these women are all badasses. They are just so cool.
Are they all
doing
from
really
Kansas
cool
City?
things. All from Kansas City.
That's a lot of people.
So yeah, the requirements are you have to be female or female identifying. You have to be from the Kansas or in the Kansas City area, and you have to be a leader enacting what we call radical positive change in the community.
Okay.
And so, and that looks differently for all women. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs, because that was the world that I was operating in. So you
Okay.
have female founders. We have politicians, we have doctors, we have designers, technologists, educators. All of these women, the unifying factor is that they are leading in their communities at the micro or macro level.
And so if somebody applies for this, you research them and figure out if they're a fit?
Well, so we have questions that you have to answer in order to join the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we will so if a member refers someone else, we take that pretty seriously. But we do kind of do our background
Can I
work.
refer Matt?
He does rock a good manicure. So, no. Sorry, Matt.
So
I'm okay.
So you have this Facebook group. What else? What other programs, activities, and functions, and what else?
Lauren, what do you have coming up soon that might be related to that?
Oh, gosh.
See how we did
love
that?
question.
See how we did that?
Beautiful. So we have a lot of things that we're working on right now, but the thing that I am most excited about is Women's Empowerment Week. That's going to be September 9th through 13th.
Boom.
Yeah.
Is that a global thing?
It is not a global
Not
thing.
a global
This
thing,
is
okay.
something that
It's a Kansas City-
we're just doing.
It's a you thing. All right.
Yeah. So we have a full week of women's programming, 1 or 2 events every day. The big one that I'm excited about all of them because they're going to be awesome, but I'm super excited about our Women's Leadership Forum. That's going to be Friday at Plex Pod, Westport Commons in their Medallion Theater. And we have Congresswoman Sharice Davids. We have Diana Kander. We have Deanna Munoz with the Latino Arts Foundation. We have Debbie Ballard, who's a corporate leader at Sprint. And then we have Rachel Qualls, who I think you guys just had on the show.
Yes, she's been on a couple times.
Yeah, so she's kind of our tech founder, that ex-VC thing, but we just have these.
And where do people see these events, like the calendar, or sign up for them? I'm assuming you want people to sign up.
Well, yes, we would prefer to have people there. That would be great.
Right. Right. But it is preferred that you actually sign up.
RSVP.
Yeah.
Well, and so this event will be ticketed,
Right.
and so we are
Ticketed as in like you pay to go, or
as in you pay to go.
Okay.
Yes. So one of the things that I am charged with as the leader of InnovateHER KC is making it sustainable, and so event programming fees are a part of that.
Do you ever pay those with a money gun?
I do not, but I should.
We'll give you a demonstration.
Oh my gosh.
Soon. Sure.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we post our events on our Facebook page, not
Okay.
the Facebook group, but we have a separate Facebook page that is public facing. So that's where like our allies and our friends come in and they like and they support.
I'm gonna go join right now.
You are fantastic. I love it, Matt DeCoursey. Do you feel?
Yeah, I'm on it.
do you-
I'm there.
I
was
see
like,
no phone in your hand.
I was like the night because I'm already in.
Oh, you're awesome.
Yeah, I lied right now, but I will go get in.
Get out of here.
Oh, I already like it too.
See? I think I already do. I got to check. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I'm pretty sure that I invited you guys.
You know, Lauren, I'm just trying to be here, present with you, and support this
appreciate
cause
that.
here. And well, I've discussed this cause with you before.
Yes.
In fact, we hosted an InnovateHER event.
Yes, you did.
We did.
It was actually one of our best events.
There
It
you
was
go.
fabulous.
Talking about sweet and greet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did an InnovateHER KC sweet and great.
That was fun. You had a lot of
Yeah.
people there.
Oh, and we got to meet Joel Goldberg. That was
Yes.
fun too.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So you guys have this upcoming week. When was that again? What were the dates?
September 9th through 13th.
Okay, and so where do people go again to?
So we have the events listed out on Eventbrite, and then we will be posting them through our InnovateHER KC Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have this Facebook group that's great for networking. You have these events that you're doing. What other
Yeah.
kinds of things are you doing in the community?
So we have several initiatives that I am actively working on, that we are actively working on, and then several that are just kind of like, off in the distance. But right now we have the Kansas City Diverse Speaker Directory, and that's one of them. So one of the struggles that meeting planners and organizers have when they're trying to create diverse panels is you're only as strong as the people that you know in
Yeah.
that kind of space.
We have this problem on the podcast.
Yeah,
I also had already liked your community.
I am so proud of
Yeah.
you. I love it.
Sorry.
You
We
guys,
have
you
that-
guys are great allies.
We have the
was-
same problem on the podcast. We're thinking about, okay, who do we invite on the podcast? And we're trying to get people from different types of business that
Yep.
aren't startups, but also, female and other
Right.
diversity and all these things. And we have the same issue. It's like, who do we know? Trying to
So-
expand that network and figure out who do we invite.
And that's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, because it's we've had this discussion. It's not like we're trying to be dude centric or anything like that, but there are certain parts of just things that some people trend towards,
Right.
and it is a smaller community. And it seems like, like you said with some of the programming, reaching out and trying to figure out who, where, when, and stuff like that. Do you have any issues with that when it comes to, because I thought I saw some posts about wanting to find more speakers, but maybe, I don't know, you weren't getting the engagement, or?
Well, so a database is only as strong as the information that
Right.
populates it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this database will become valuable when it has a lot of speakers.
Right.
So the functionality right now, like you can go onto our website, innovateherkc.com, and you can go to our resources tab. You can pull up this database. You can apply to be in this database. But the thing is, if I go in and I am able to say, I would like to speak to an African American female who can talk about youth health issues, the database allows for that. Like you can
Okay.
go in and you can filter by that kind of information. You can filter by, what style of presentation, things like that. So it's going to be a useful tool. But right now, if you went in and you put in those search parameters, you would find one individual. So that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to build out this database so that it becomes a super useful tool to make your job easier. Like, as allies who want to promote people who don't look, think, and act like you and who have really interesting stories, how do we make your job easier? That's the question that we wanted to answer.
Like, I would find that useful, like, especially in context of like what we're doing at this very moment.
Right.
Because it's also kind of weird to be like, you're like, hey, I'm looking for, you're making posts online, and that's one thing, but it's like, I don't know, it's just it feels mildly uncomfortable, just being like overly specific in some regards, and I don't know. It's
So that's what we're working on there. And I've seen your posts on Startup KC, and you may or may not have noticed, but I generally try to promote InnovateHERs.
I do, but we pay attention to those,
Well, and I think that you had like Kristen
Thomas.
Yeah, Kristen Thomas with Open the Doors. Rachel's an InnovateHER.
And that's what Matt was saying earlier. We're just trying to, the topic. This is Startup Hustle, and because of the background that we have, or the people that we tend to spend the most time with, we in the beginning was a little software centric, and obviously that's a big part of the startup world in general, but this show's about being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, being an innovator or InnovateHER.
Oh, I like what you did there.
But the point is like, in wanting to talk about that, because we all have the struggle is real, like whether you're male, female, any of it, you have the same issues as an entrepreneur. Like, you came in my office when you arrived here and you were like, what's up? And I was like, and that's just because that's, like the yo-yo was in the down position at that moment, like going up and down, and just trying to bring people well, like I said, the struggle's real. We all, as entrepreneurs and founders or whomever, we have the same issues overall. So.
Well, and so I would actually challenge that a little bit and say,
some people have it worse in those regards too. Like, it is a different hill to climb up in some regards too.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's not about like the oppression Olympics or anything like that, but the fact is, like, so female founders, they experience a lot of the same issues that you experience, but then there's an added layer to that, like different pieces of the journey that you have to get through, and so that's what InnovateHER KC tries to support. It tries to offer like that real, authentic connection, because if you know other women who are experiencing these things and going through these things, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So how do we change some of these things? Because, and I'll let you state the stat, but I mean, it's pretty well known if you look for the numbers that VC funding isn't really as well distributed. But, and I don't know, I mean, it's one thing to talk about the problems, but what are some of our solutions?
So that's a really fantastic question. I love that you asked that.
Thank you.
But so the stat that you're referring to, and I may get this wrong, but something like 16% of venture capital funding went to companies with at least one female founder in 2017. 2% of that went to companies that had all female founders. And so there's some form of bias. Like, women are actually starting companies at 2.5 times the rate as men, and they're receiving less funding. And so there's something there.
So you're saying that of startups or new things that are started, that you believe that women are starting them 2.5 times more?
I'm not saying I believe it. I'm saying that the Pew Research Center did a study on it, and that's what they found.
But is that of all kinds of businesses, or is that
I think it's of all kinds of businesses.
Businesses that potentially could receive funding?
Well, that's a good question.
I think
and I actually
any
don't know
business
that.
technically could receive funding.
Sure.
Huh?
I think,
but VC funding tends to go to those highly scalable, IP-led.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
you know. So I get your question.
Because that right there it would be a challenge. I would challenge that statistic, and I'm not trying to be argumentative, but that would be like really skewed compared to just like, I know that we'll just assume that there's a 50-50 spread of men and women in general, but I wonder.
51%.
Is it?
Female.
Or what? That's kind of how the voting rights go at my house too. So, but
nice.
No, some of that too is I'm curious about what would qualify. But yeah, I hear you. It's I definitely when I talk, you can just go to some of these events. And you look around, and it's like
it's pretty bro heavy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which is bros can be allies. Bros are friends. We
So,
I mean, we love
so what
you
are
guys.
some of your other goals from this organization?
Yeah,
So before we move on to that,
solutions.
I want to talk about that solutions piece a little bit, because there was another study, and I don't remember what organization did it, but they found that when venture capitalists, like potential funders, were talking to startup founders, when they were speaking to, and they put like their transcripts of the conversation through this analyzer, and they found that when these individuals were talking to female founders, they tended to use defensive language, talking about how are you going to protect against this? How are you going to control for, the various perils about, starting a business. But then when they were speaking to male founders, they tended to use championship language, like, oh, tell us about like your high growth strategies. And so the way that venture capitalists tend to talk to founders is different across gender. There's an inherent bias in there, is what they're finding. And so when we hear stuff like this, and I can see you like you have like this challenge look on your face, or are you just thinking?
No, I have to poop.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm just kidding. No,
Awesome. All right.
I felt like that was the right thing to say. I wasn't challenging anything. I was actually listening.
Poop
Yeah.
face, okay.
But when I'm actually listening or like deep in thought, it generates the same
Same
facial
look.
expression.
His 2-year-old
Okay.
makes the same look.
I know. It's,
Fair.
Yeah.
Is it kind
yeah.
of weird seeing it on his
Yeah.
like 2-year-old face? Okay.
Well, I mean, most of the things that I do emulate the actions of a 2-year-old, so yeah, it's pretty normal.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm
So-
listening.
So at any rate, I think one of the things that we have to do is challenge those institutions. So when you talk about like the gender wage gap, and the race wage gap is even more significant. When you talk about things like that, often the language refers to the individual who's experiencing these problems. So like with the gender wage gap, people say, oh, it's because women don't know how to negotiate. Women don't know how to, ask for raises, champion, advocate for themselves. But the fact is, the data doesn't bear that out. Women are asking for raises. They're not receiving them. And there's still a gender wage gap, although it is getting better. But all that being said is, when you have women who are advocating for themselves and there is still a systemic difference in the rates at which they are paid, you have to then look at the institutions. And so you have to say to these companies, things like wage transparency are important, like being able to talk about what you make, because if you don't know what other people make, you don't know if you're being compensated fairly.
See and once again, not trying to be argumentative, because I know this is a real thing, but that's tough though. Like from an employment standpoint, it's hard to. When you talk about being fully are you talking about being like fully transparent, like everyone in a company should know how much the other people make?
Yeah. So
What are your thoughts about that?
There was no way I would want to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just, and
Why?
it has nothing to do with men or women, because shit.
I mean, if it was a factory where every person made $11 an hour, it'd be one thing.
That's a different subject, yeah. Because all right, look, I want to say.
I want a real answer from you.
I believe that both Matts here are not part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we both operate. I got a chapter in my book talking about doing that. Did you read it? I don't know if you've ever read it, but when we first had our employees in the Philippines, went to hire someone, and the guy that was helping me there literally was like, I was like, why are we paying this person less? And he said, because she's a woman. And I was like, no, that's not how we're going to do this. We don't care about that. But, that was just like, in that particular case, this was 10 years ago, but that was just the belief that was the way it should be. But I've never operated like that. But I think if you get fully transparent with everyone, that would just be
and I think that would only work in a company that had like very, very, very defined pay bands. It's like, you only can make between X and Y.
Right.
And
this
is
why.
And this is why, and it's very rigid and whatever.
So
But the problem with all of these jobs is it's like comparing a bunch of NFL athletes. Like, this guy can be worth way more than this guy, even though they do the same job. But it's not like they both work on an assembly line and they do the exact same thing. Like, this one provides way more value than this one, and it's just subjective
Yeah, I
in their
was gonna-
job.
the
Like their
term
job is
subjective
was that,
subjective.
yeah.
You're speaking to performance there, though. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
performance.
variable.
But
And
performance,
so, but you can
performance is
monetize performance.
It's difficult to
But
measure.
you come
can
along,
if you're like a
but somebody comes
salesperson.
along and you're like, that guy makes more money than me, and I think I'm better than him, so fuck that.
Well, so
That's
but
what happens.
But what happened? Okay.
Their subjectivity is different than their manager's subjectivity.
Well, and that's fine.
You may
but
have woken a beast.
I know this is this is really
The
fascinating.
beast lives.
But imagine if you were able to say, okay, here are two individuals. They work for a company, and so they have the same level of education. They both have master's degrees. They are fulfilling the exact same job duties, and then we are measuring their output. You, as the leaders of the organization, you would have the wherewithal to be able to combat that. Like,
I agree.
look,
I agree with all that, but there are so many jobs you cannot measure their output.
I think that's the truth, and that's my point.
There is no scientific. Like if
Yeah.
I write code
you
and he
can,
writes
but you
code,
can measure the health of a company, right?
you cannot measure how much code I write versus how much code he writes,
I think you would develop
and scientifically measure that I'm worth more than he is.
You would. The problem.
There is no way to do it.
You would turn into a culture that spent the majority of its time trying to measure that.
If you
rather
work
than
on an
doing other
assembly
things.
line, then it's like,
And by
okay,
the way,
I
this
do
is
widgets
whether
faster
women,
than him.
It's whether women got paid more than men in
Has
this
nothing to do with
particular
male or
case.
female.
I think it would be really challenging. I think, but now once you said there are things like, and here's the thing is like the government is pretty rigid with the, like you called pay bands.
Right.
Okay, we don't give a shit who we hire. This is how much it gets paid. But I think some of that's tough in some regards. Like you said, I think you could turn a lot of businesses into like a culture of comparison, which wouldn't be healthy for either sex.
I really like the pay bands, and I really like all the things you're talking about, the transparency and all that. My problem is there are a lot of jobs, not all jobs, there are a lot of jobs that are very subjective.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to measure performance from one person to the other.
Now so.
And that's not all jobs.
And
For-
see-
but it's
well,
certain
and
By
see-
the way,
and that-
from my seat now, and this supports your comment, I personally feel that like the world should be on commission in some regards, which is an output-based economy.
Right.
But then again, my opinion there is fully flawed as well, because there's too many things. Like, what's commission? Like obviously, because I'm a sales guy at heart, and for me, the output is the cash register ringing.
I mean, even if I'm running McDonald's and I got one person that makes $10 an hour and another one makes $12, I'll pay the one $12 if they're happier, they're nicer to customers, they show up to work on time, da 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 da.
But
But the person who makes 10 is going to be really pissed because they make 12 and they don't give a shit about any of that.
But
stuff.
those are all things that you can measure. Like even
No,
if it's
things you can
just,
argue about. They're
I
just
don't
things
know.
you argue about.
All right. Well, so we went off the rails a little bit, but the fact
We live our life off the rails. But Lauren, that's okay to be off the rails, because
It is okay.
this whole situation and everything we're talking about it's off the fucking rails already.
That's
I mean,
true.
it clearly is. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having the discussion. Because
That's
when
right.
you're on the rails, you're traveling right down the middle and things are going smooth. And it's when shit's off the rails is when it needs to be. That's when it requires attention.
you know
So
what, that was very profound.
thanks.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm just glad I didn't have that other look on my face when I said that, because I don't think you guys. But no, I think and I think that. But we were talking about problems, we were talking about solutions, and then some of this is just a challenge, because like I
Sure.
understand your passion with what you're saying. Like, I wouldn't want to. It would drive me nuts if
We have 100-something software
know.
developers in the Philippines.
I know.
Which one should make more than the others?
So, and by the way, who
the hell knows?
We determine that by it. A lot of that has to do because I am the final person that signs off on our hiring, and I have developed an ability to understand, or at least have a strong wrap my arms around what that person's worth in our marketplace when it comes to our clients.
It's all a gut feeling. At the
Yeah,
end
and
of the day.
so I have to look at like the notes that I get, the interactions that they had with the interviewers, their assessments that they took, like a lot of different things, their past history, and then I have to think, okay, because at Full Scale, like we're pretty open about this, the prices we charge our clients are a simple multiple of what we pay our employees. That's it. It's like a marketplace.
We have
in
our
that
own
regard.
markup and margin, just like any other business.
And some of that, though, is, well, okay, so you use like the football player comment. Like, okay, so there are NFL players that get like a $30 million contract that they're not nowhere near the player that a guy that signed a 6-year deal 4 years ago when the salary cap or some of it's just weirdly opportunistic. And, and that's the thing. So, all right. So in Congress with this, when we had another guest in here, she said you should never disclose what you made at your prior job.
And see, that is an old system. Well, that's actually true.
Is that part of the problem? Because you're like, oh, well, this is what I made at my other job. And you're like, okay, so.
Well, no, because you should be paid based on what the market will bear, not on what you made previously.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I agree with. I don't have any problems with that.
No, but I ask because, see, that's something to,
And it's like us at Full Scale. We know for this type of skill level, we'll pay about X. And you either fit in our box of we're willing to pay about X for this, that's market rate.
And we also do ask people, we're like, what do you want to make? Yeah. Like, what's your expectation? Like, where are you going to be happy? Because if I hire you at 70% of what you're really going to be happy at, you're not going to stick around.
True.
Or you're going to be yelling at me to get you up to that other point.
That's what I would challenge. Yeah. So say, like, putting the responsibility on the people that you're hiring to say, well, what do you want to make? Because the fact is, like, women, and in particular women of color, tend to undervalue what they do. And so if you come to me and you say, well, what do you want to make? And I come to you and I say, well, I want to make this because I am desperate for a job, or because, I was out of the house or out of the workforce for a couple of years because I was, helping to raise my kids or take care of a sick parent or something like that, which those kinds of burdens fall significantly on women. Men certainly take on those roles too as well, but when you see those kinds of parameters, like, you're putting the onus on the woman to say, this is what I deserve to be paid, and you're not going to get a fair and equitable answer. The responsibility lies on you, the institution, to fairly pay them.
That's what's nice about clear job titles and pay bands and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, in Harris Bay Marketing, we pay 50 to 60 grand. Even if you ask for 40, we're still going to pay you 50 or whatever.
Well, we do that back to the Full Scale example, like, one of the reasons that, we don't even really recruit anymore. Like, they line up and apply with us because
because you're fair and equitable employers.
We pay way better than the other companies because that, like I said, it's based on like what but it is an output-based economy. That is pretty measurable for us.
But we also hired a janitor and we paid him twice what he should make because we're like, no, this is too little.
We actually we did that on one and had done that in a couple cases. But we've had other people too, like I said, with certain job offers. Like, I'm realizing, okay, your value across our client marketplace is X, and they get really excited about that. And I think it's kind of unfortunate that even generates excitement, because you said there's like a market rate.
It's also important as a business to pay people a fair wage, because at any time they can be recruited away, right? So you don't want to pay somebody a fraction of what they're worth, and then they're getting recruited every day to go work somewhere else for a higher wage. Like, they need to be paid, a reasonably close to a market rate.
Speaking of which,
that's going to eat away at them of like they can go make more money somewhere else.
People have been recruiting me to come do their podcast with them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm so happy with my level of compensation here at Startup Hustle that I'll never leave. Like, I'm on. This is a joke because I think we pay money to be here. Will you pay me to be here?
Can you put some more gas in my tour bus,
dude?
That's all I ask.
It's oh wow, we're gonna play Mixtape.
All right, let's do it.
Mainly so we can break up the mood here, because but that, by the way,
wait, are we upset?
No. I thought that was awesome. I welcome that. I prefer to have subject matter where we get to like be real about it. And I honestly, I think everyone, Lauren, and on the way to Mixtape, go to mixtapethegame.com and check it out while we round out this conversation. But I think we all have valid points in so many different ways, and that's an issue. Like, no matter what it is,
interesting conversation.
You're never going to get a consensus on so many things, other than that Matt is an awesome host. Of the podcast.
Yeah, Matt is awesome.
When you say that, which Matt are we?
Well, we're trying. I mean, we're trying to be equitable and fair here.
I mean,
so let's not.
It's subjective.
But what if one Matt outperforms the other?
One does. Every episode.
Okay.
And one gets paid more than the other two, unfairly.
I mean,
all right. Mixtape.
Okay, so I pulled a card out of the Mixtape deck, which soon I will not do because we will have a digital version.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Sorry.
I'm going to read a scenario. We're going to pick a song, and then we're going to vote. For who the winner is, you cannot vote for yourself.
Damn it.
What song would you say your pet says reminds them of you?
It's got to be "Fuck You" by CeeLo Green.
No, that's the hack. You're going with I'm gonna
Because I gave mine away.
I'm going with. I was gonna go in the same route. I was gonna say "Hello" by Lionel Richie. Hello,
Is it me?
is it me you're looking for?
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna hit the high notes. I need my voice to come back because, one of the Matts on the podcast has a voice of an angel.
Yeah, one of the Matts.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Do you know
I
how
need to hear
confusing?
it.
Do you know how confusing? Oh yeah, I'll call you later.
Okay.
Do you have a submission? I'm going with "Hello" by Lionel Richie.
So I do. I actually have several pets, and so the first one would
Don't
probably
come
have been
don't come
"Fuck
with
you."
5 answers
No.
for each pet.
I came up So my dog. I'm gonna go with the.
Knew it.
"You Are the Wind Beneath My Wings"
Oh my god.
by Bette Midler,
you guys
because
just wanna
my
vote?
dog
Do you guys just
loves
wanna vote
me
for me now?
so much.
I'm teasing. You were going to come with an answer for each pet, weren't
Well,
you?
no,
Okay.
maybe. I
So
don't know.
what was it again?
The Wind Beneath My Wings. She
If
loves
it was
me
a
a
pet,
lot.
if it was a pet bird and you went with that, you get my vote. And I can't vote.
I'm gonna have to vote for the Matt.
I'm gonna.
This is. All right.
I'm voting for Lauren because I'm not going to vote for CeeLo Green. By the way, we've uncovered a flaw
What's that?
in the source code of Mixtape. It's that "Fuck You" by CeeLo Green is literally an awesome answer for almost every
Pretty much
card.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes,
what?
and sometimes in the most wildly inappropriate ways.
As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, yep, that's my cat right there.
See, I won.
She didn't vote for you.
I did not.
It's still up in the air.
Okay.
Although,
I voted for Lauren
I
because
like.
I'm not voting for you.
I'm
And I
doing
voted for
like
you.
Survivor style, like.
I'm worried
Fuck
that.
you, by the way.
Ah!
But I think I'm. You know what? I'm rocking the Lionel Richie. You get the
Then
vote.
who did you vote for?
I voted for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
win.
because I believe in equality, I'm gonna let Lauren. I'm gonna let Lauren fire the
Wait,
money
how do I
again
do
because
it?
she
Oh.
wants to. You
How
can
do I
have.
do it? I do
you
so
pull the
bad.
trigger and point it right at Watson.
No,
oh,
he won.
Wait.
All right, hold on.
Wait, don't you got? You want me to capture this moment for you? I gotta get my shit together here, people.
Okay,
Come
wait,
over
is
here and
this
get a little
gonna
closer
hit?
to him. Yeah.
Well, I don't wanna
Hit
be
him
on
right in
her
the face.
side. Okay.
All right,
Okay.
do
Well,
it.
wait, I can't.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Was that like the first time the money gun exploded? Did it come out the top?
That was
know-
that was a fail, I think.
What I
No,
what I
you
have
can't.
can't
There's
be
no
taught,
such
all right?
I mean, money went everywhere, so I guess it worked.
All right. So, well, there's your equal
Wait,
pay, Conaway.
Right there.
All right.
There you go.
How people forget the A a lot.
A
don't they?
lot.
I wouldn't get too close to those dollars.
Are they pretty?
They look a little
pretty
ratty.
gross.
Well, maybe. I don't know. We're not really sure.
That was terrible.
All right, so there's a couple questions I have for you. Back to
Yeah.
the topic. at
By the
hand
way,
here.
congratulations on your kind of win there.
Cool.
You were
So-
really the big winner.
Kind of thanks.
We've touched on a few different things about women and things that are different or how they approach different things or whatever, right? A little bit. So one of the interesting things that Jennifer Wadella mentioned when she was on and we were talking about women in technology is that women are much less likely to, I don't know the right way to phrase this, but I'll just say do something or attempt something unless their confidence is extremely high that they will be
She said it was
successful.
It was
or
in regard
approved.
to job applications. She
Yeah.
said that
Yeah.
men would apply for a job that they were like possibly not even close
That they
to qualified
qualified for like 30% of
Right.
things.
Yeah, but
and
women
then
might hold back
will-
and say,
And
"Oh,
women
I'm
will
only
not
unless they
apply.
qualify. Yeah.
And maybe unless they're
I've heard that
overqualified.
stat.
And so I wonder, we talked about some of this, how that type of mentality, is that a universal truth, and does that impact things like the funding? Like they're not going to apply for funding
Yeah.
or even go after funding unless they think there's a 100% chance they're going to be approved for it.
So I would say absolutely, and I would say that like a lot of that, in my humble opinion, but a lot of that is societal conditioning. So they did a study a while back where they talked to kindergarten students, and they asked them, do you want to take part in an activity that is designed for smart kids, or do you want to take part in an activity that is designed for kids who try hard? And across gender, the answer tended to be, I want to do the activity for smart kids. But then they asked the same students again in like 5th or 6th grade, and they asked them the exact same question, and there was a steep gender divide. The male students tended to say, I want to do the activity for smart kids. The female students tended to say, I want to do the activity for kids who try hard. So somewhere in there, they were societally conditioned to think, I might not be the smartest, but I can try really, really hard. And so there's this, what I would contend is this societal conditioning that you carry with you into adulthood, being told that a woman's role.
I agree with you. I think that there's,
thank you.
I think that there, I think it's social conditioning.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a different way of saying it.
But
it does. But dude, they'd start doing it because I've read about this because I have a daughter, I have taken a different look at some of this and Jennifer didn't like it when I said that, but it did. It changed my worldview. It honestly frightened the shit out of me. But it made me look at a lot of stuff and reading about things and think about that. They literally do it to them in school. They're separate them and they send the girls off to do girl
girly
things
stuff
and guys to do guy things. And it's just they really start pointing it out, where prior to going to school, the kids don't even seem to notice it. So It happens right around that school time. So, all right. So anyway, there's a lot of information out there. And where you can really get a lot more about this is if you come down to the Women's Empowerment Week, you go to InnovateHER, that's InnovateHER KC.com. You can check that out. Women's Empowerment Week is September 9th through 13th. That's here in Kansas City. You need to get a ticket, so go do that now. There's going to be lots of information about women's leadership. They're going to pretty much change your life, and if they don't, you should email Matt Watson about that and tell him why. So
you're welcome.
No problem.
And that's how Matt is going to support Women's Empowerment Week, I think, right?
Yeah.
By
I'm answer all the
answering
emails.
any emails about the programming or really anything else. But Lauren, I think you're doing a really admirable thing. I want to congratulate you on jumping and building wings.
Yeah.
That's my version.
Mm-hmm.
Way fun.
I hope next time you come in and give us an update that you actually win Mixtape for real.
Okay.
You can go to mixtapethegame.com and buy a version and practice until then.
Fun.
Just so you're ready. Learn all the scenarios. There's a lot of them.
I have to do my research. I feel like this is now a life goal.
It will be. It will be. We need trophies so soon. The problem is we lack the funding.
Yeah.
You realize that 0% of VC funding has gone to this startup Hustle
That's
podcast.
bullshit.
Yeah,
That's
I agree.
bullshit.
I know. I want to change that. If you guys want to give us a support and tell us why we should be getting the VC funding, you can follow us on Instagram at Startup Hustle Podcast.
I just want to point out
Do
that
it.
I follow Startup Hustle Podcast, and I don't even have to look and see.
I know we're going to follow
follow
you
your
here in a
shit,
second.
guys.
And speaking of which, we don't really follow many people. I think we're following a total of 42, soon to be 43. Yes. Different things. Check out the people we're following. They're all folks that we find to be pretty awesome. You can find Lauren. She's everywhere. Everywhere. Much like Matt's opinions.
All over the board.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thanks.